Happy Sunday, everybody. You know, it's that time. And if you don't know, next week is Father's Day. And even though it's Father's Day, we're still going to be talking about the housing market. Next week, hopefully, we're going to have something a little bit different because I'm going out of town. But I'll be going out of town and possibly Eddie's going to be running the show. Eddie's my husband. He's the one that brings up the news articles and everything. And then he'll have a guest. The guest will be answering the questions, but Eddie's going to be running the show. So it's a special week next week because it's Father's Day. But then this week we have a super special guest, one of the best real estate agents I know throughout the country. And you probably already know her name's Shannon Milligan. She's out of Virginia and she knows real estate like nobody's business. So don't mess with her. She's as tall as I am, but those little ones like us, we're scrappy. So don't mess with Shannon. Without further ado, here she is, Shannon Milligan. Yeah, everybody give her a round of applause and say hello to Shannon in the comment section. Shannon, tell us a little bit of. Oh, no problem. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a realtor here in Richmond, Virginia. I've been doing this for over a decade now, which is crazy to me because I don't know where that went. And I specialize in working by referral with my Raving Fan program. And I kind of got started, when I moved to my market, I didn't know one person. I knew one, and they weren't going to hire me. So I got started by blogging. And the blogging kind of turned on the faucet, and I went from selling 3 homes in 2012 to 30 in 2013, and it just kind of went from there. And I love to do video like you, but nowhere near what you do. You're an inspiration to all of us, and I love the creative part of this part of the business, being able to use your creativity to help a seller with their marketing and that sort of thing. So I love how that kind of marries together. But that's kind of me in a nutshell.
You guys probably already know her. Like, you probably don't even realize that you know her because you probably seen one of her listing videos. They were like viral hits on Facebook, and she makes these very creative listing videos, like almost it's like a story for each house, and then she creates these stories to sell the homes. It's really very fascinating, well done, high production stuff, and some of them are funny, like I like, some of them are heartwarming, and she has like I always make goofy ones, but she goes the gambit, she goes the whole way. So anyways, you're welcome. So the housing market has gotten crazy, right? But in some markets, people have been saying there's a cooling off period. Like they used to get like 30 offers, and now they're getting 10. Houses that would have sat on the market for like a few hours are now staying on for maybe a week. Are you seeing that in your area in Virginia?
We are, at least I am feeling it, and I don't know if it's a cool down or if it's a stutter. And the reason I say that, I think it could be a stutter because the world's starting to open up, right? And the summer's upon us, the weather's getting warm, people are tired of being in their homes. And I think a lot of people are now like, oh, the mask mandate has been lifted, we're gonna go travel, we're gonna live it up. So what I think will be interesting to see is if it picks back up come the end of July, beginning of August, when everybody's like, oh, the traditional, oh, we got to get in a house before school starts, that sort of thing. But we are seeing a little bit of a slowdown versus, I had a listing that had 33 offers back in January. Little did I know what was coming. I was like, oh, that's weird. And then like the tsunami happened. But normally where we're up against, 15, 20 offers, I'm starting to see where it might be 3 or 5. I mean, we're still very, very busy, and you have to be competitive. That said, I feel like there's a little bit of a, we can maybe take a deep breath, but it will be really interesting to see if it's just a stutter or if it's an actual cooling off and a leveling off.
I know that some people have like buyer's fatigue, I call it, because they've looked for so long and they're so over it. They're like, you know what? We're just going to step back and we'll revisit this once we organize our thoughts a little bit better. Cause after they've been beat out so many times. They're like, this is just too much. I don't know if we really want to do this right now. But another thing that has come up that a few of my clients and subscribers have even shown me is some news articles that have come out. And I have been saying this for months. And it was that a lot of like some of the newer houses and some of the offers that have come in, they haven't been coming in from like individual home buyers. They're actually coming in from corporations. And I'm not talking like mom and pop corporations. I'm talking like big conglomerates. Eddie, can you pull up that article for me really quick? It has, and that's what I'm going to be talking about in my next video. But there was a subdivision. There's been several out in Texas, and one of them that made the Wall Street Journal was a corporation that had bought out all 78 new home builds. I think it was called Blackstone had bought it, or Black.
Wow.
Yeah, they bought all of them, and they bought them up at a 50% markup because they were going to sell each one of those to their investors, and the whole subdivision, the whole entire subdivision is going to be turned into rental units. That's what they're doing. And then so people, when I first started talking about this, people said, you're crazy, this isn't a thing. Well, now every single article that you see about the housing market is talking about all these corporations that are purchasing all these houses, single family dwellings, and beating out every single offer. Their hedge funds are doing it. And now this article comes out and they're trying to paint the picture. I don't even know how they're doing this, but even at the end of the article, they were like, corporations are going to save the housing market and home prices so we don't have a crash. I'm like, what? Yeah, that's what we said at the last crash too. Corporations saved us.
That's just crazy. I had not heard of that. Now, but honestly, it makes sense to me if I put myself as a corporation. They're not making any more land, so they buy it. They use it as a rental. If they ever want to, flip it to a sale, they can, and they can make some money over long term. I mean, it makes sense.
I just think it's destroying the American dream for the average.
Oh, it is.
For the average home buyer. And then this specific article made me so incredibly angry because they literally have painted the average home buyer as causing the problem. And it's not the corporations. They're saying that the average everyday person buying a house, they're the ones that are pricing up the market. And it's not the corporations. They're just following the market. I'm like, they're overbidding for homes at a level that the average buyer can't purchase at. But they, like, the whole thing reads like, a love letter to corporations. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it.
That's just crazy. I mean, I agree with you. I think that it's not right in that sense. But if I put myself in the corporation, I can see their logic behind it. But what's interesting? We were watching Inside Job the other day with Matt Damon narrating it, of how all of this greed took place. So then we followed that up with something else. I can't remember the name of it. We watched 2 nights ago. And then last night we watched The Big Short for about the 5th time. And all of a sudden, because I watched Inside Job and whatever this other show was, it always made sense to me, but I'm really now dissecting it. And I watch The Big Short about once a year because I feel like it's an educational thing. And it's really amazing when you look at, what happened. And it's not too far-fetched to see that something could be coming down the pipe, if this stuff continues.
And corporate greed is a real thing.
Yeah.
Corporate greed is a real thing. And Wall Street does rule the roost. As far as I'm concerned, they manipulate the prices on all sorts of things. And we've seen it firsthand, with those GameStop stocks, and then they stopped the little guy from purchasing it. And then they allowed for freezes so they could sell off. I mean, they rule the roost. They rule the roost. So anybody has any questions, just make sure you put in the chat questions. Shannon is a real estate phenom, and she can blow probably any answer I have out of the water.
Oh, so, that's nice. Thank you.
You're welcome. Very well versed in the real estate world. So I would love to hear some of your answers on some of the questions that come in on a regular basis here. I talk about the only thing I know that I can cover probably maybe better than you is manufactured homes. Do you even sell those? Do you sell manufactured homes?
Interestingly enough, one came up we didn't know it was a manufactured home. Brick rancher. We went under contract. I mean, full blown brick on full sides. Had no idea until we had the inspector come in, and he was like, there's space between, I can see from the attic the whole way down into the crawl space. And we were like, wait, what? So I've just recently become versed on that because we don't typically see them and don't typically sell them. But I've learned a lot about them in the last like 2-3 weeks.
Uh-huh. Yes. You become really quick, especially when something goes wrong. You learn all about licensing, and you learn all about the inspections that they're required, the type of seams they are, and they have like this plate, and there has to be 2 plates, and there's a plate that they have to have, and if you don't have the plate, then you have to send in for the plate. It's so crazy. Eddie, do we have any questions? This is nuts. We normally have questions that pop up. Oh, we have no questions. Do we have another article? I know, this is crazy. We normally have like questions that pop up every single week. What are you doing this weekend for Father's Day?
Nothing, because I forgot.
Oh, it's next Sunday. It's next Sunday. You have a week.
Okay, we'll probably go out just to lunch or something. I'll tell you an article I was reading, which was fascinating to me, was this couple that the builder canceled on them their contract. You might have already talked about this before, but I had that happen to me this year. I had a builder cancel the contract on my client. My client consulted an attorney and she got her house, but it was yeah, she won. And it was interesting. He said it's because she was difficult. And she's like, no, it's because I went under contract, in 2019, and you can probably sell the house for more. And she got in her house. So it was really fascinating to see that happening, in another area. And these people were like, because they were told that they were difficult too. That's what that builder was saying in this article. Oh, no, it's not because we wanted to sell their house for more. It's because they were difficult. It's like, well, were they?
Were they really? My question to you is that, like, here in Louisiana, the builders' contracts, even though our buyers sign the state contract, they don't sign, the builders will not sign our state contract. We fill out the whole entire thing, and they just move that off to the side. And then the builder's contract is constructed in a way that there's no way that anybody just popped in to say hi. We'll catch you on the replay this evening. Have a great day. Thank you, Diana. That was super chat. The way that's constructed is like basically the home builder can pretty much do whatever they want. They can say at any point that, we're going to go ahead and move on to another buyer. And then when I had Julie Patterson on here, she said in California, it's very common to have negotiated in a contract, and throughout that contract renegotiated several times because the prices increased so much. So you could have negotiated it, let's just say at $350,000, but by the time you get to the closing table, it might be at $499,000. And that's to be expected. I was like, that's never happened here. And then sure enough, 2 months later, it was happening here. And
it's now happening here. It's now happening here. It's being written into the offers because of the lumber shortage. So they're writing in there. And I say to clients, this could go, I mean, I don't know where it's going to cap. And sure enough, a client signed and they were like, no, I'm good with it. And like 3 weeks later, it came into play where now it's going to cost more. And it's crazy. I mean, it's happening.
Yeah. Well, at least the lumber prices seem to be like coming back they're starting to come down a little bit. Yeah. What's the best advice? Shonda wants to know, what's the best advice you can give a first-time home buyer relocating to another state? We are looking at homes and modular with land. So what would your best advice you would give to Shonda for being a first-time home buyer?
I would start on, honestly, Google and YouTube and find an agent that knows what they're talking about. You can only fake it for so long on video before your true personality comes out and the knowledge. And I think too many people will call the listing agent, they'll call the sign, and they trust just going with that listing agent owes a fiduciary to the seller. They don't owe a fiduciary to you as the buyer. And I think so many people moving, especially out of area, they think either one, that that person's an advocate for them and they're not, or two, that they will get a deal if they use the listing agent, and that's not true either. The commission is outlined between the seller and the listing agent. It has nothing to do with the buyer, and it's already been preset in the listing agreement. We can't just change that. So I say start online, really, really investigate, find the social proof of the realtor that you're going to use. I do not recommend that you start with the listing agent. Find your own representation and really vet them. Get the social proof. Go look at their Zillow ratings or their Google ratings and see if they have a presence. Because I know, Kristina, if somebody puts in your name, your social proof is all over. I know if they put in my name, I might not have as many videos as you, but people are going to figure out who I am and know what I'm about because of the reviews and seeing the videos and that sort of thing. So that's what I say. How about you?
I'm right on the same page as you are. I say it often in my videos. For some people that don't know, what does the word fiduciary mean?
Fiduciary, they have a responsibility and an obligation to be honest and fair with you. And you want to have somebody that is looking out for your interests, because truth is, let's say Kristina is not an agent and she comes here and she's a buyer and I'm the listing agent. And I say, sure, come over, I'll give you a tour. And she comes in and she says to me, oh, what a wonderful house. I would pay $50,000 over what y'all are asking. It is my obligation to go tell the seller what she just said, that, oh, she said she would pay $50,000 more. Now, if you had your own buyer agent, I could not go and tell the seller what you just said, because my fiduciary, my obligation is to look out for your best interest. So both sides should have their own representation. And some people get caught up on being unrepresented and they'll represent themselves. And then they ask the listing agent some administrative questions because the listing agent can't help with that. But then it starts to, like, it's kind of like commingling, like where the muddy waters, right? It's like kind of, where does that end and this begins? Have your own representation.
Whenever they're not represented here in Louisiana and you're working as, the listing agent and you're just doing the paperwork for the buyer side, it's called ministerial acts. I love that word. I love that word, ministerial acts. It sounds so official. But Rachel says, question, we hear so much different news about why the pricing for construction is so high. I would like to hear what you think the cause of it is. And if there are multiple reasons, what are they? Do you have an opinion about this, Miss Shannon Milligan?
I have lots of opinions. So there are several reasons. One, you have supply and demand, right? So whenever you don't have enough supply, the demand is going to go up and you're going to pay for that. So you have that. But why do we have a supply and demand issue? So that's what you have to look at first. So when COVID hit, I said to my husband, I might not ever sell another house because people were losing their jobs. They were, being laid off left and right. They were being furloughed, all of that. And then about 2 months after it hit, just the floodgates opened up. So when people lost their jobs and were furloughed or laid off, they got government assistance. And in many, many examples, the government assistance was more than what some of the laborers were getting paid. So you have that issue of, why should they come back to work when they're getting paid more from the government? So you have a lack of labor, right? So there's one issue. You have the supply and demand, but you also have the perfect storm. So you had millennials or the younger generation, they were totally fine living in an apartment because they could go out to the parks, they had nightlife, they didn't need a home. Well, when they got shut in, they're like, oh, wait, I need my own space. So now you have all of these buyers coming out. And then on the flip side, you have sellers going, whoa, you're not coming into my house. COVID, I'm not going to list my property. So then it's just like this perfect storm of the supply and demand issue and not having enough people. So when you look at the cost of lumber, you don't have enough people on the lines, so to speak, to be churning it out. And then add to that, you have all of these buyers that are under new construction, and the list just keeps getting longer of how many homes are waiting to be built. Well, that's going to raise prices. So now some builders, their prices are, I have one builder, it went up 2 or 3 times over 3 weeks. Their pricing went up. And I honestly believe some are so busy, they're just giving you go away prices, like just stay out. But I don't know if that answers the question, but that's my feeling on it. It's just the perfect storm of supply and demand, not enough laborers, and all of that going on.
Shonda gave a $5 super chat, said we're going to need a bigger cup fund. Shonda, would this work? This is the biggest cup I own.
Yeah.
Everybody owns everybody makes fun of my big cups. I have my reasoning for some of the prices going up as well is that the supply chain problem happened at the beginning of the pandemic. As some of these freights came into dock, they had to actually stay in port for 10 to 14 days as a quarantine time before they were allowed to remove their shipments. So that caused a block of the supply of building materials throughout every single country. Not only that, once it isn't just lumber. It's copper that's gone up. It's nails that have gone up. It's roofing supplies that have gone, aluminum, everything that every component you can think of when it comes to your home, down to the drywall nails, has gone up in price. And then you add now that inflation has happened and it continues to happen, the valuation of the dollar decreases every single day that you wake up. So that house that was worth $200,000 last year at this time is going to be worth more or cost more because of inflation. Then on top of that, we still have really record low cheap money to borrow. And even though a lot of these cash buyers are coming in and they're purchasing these houses with over asking, they're still borrowing money. They're just adding to the sweetness of the deal. So they're still borrowing a portion of that mortgage of what it would cost, because why wouldn't you? The interest rates are so cheap money, people. That's what they're doing. So that's part of the reason that it's going. I don't even see how it could possibly. Everybody's like, well, it's going to crash after the summer. I can't wrap my head on what would even cause that, because of the fact we still don't have enough homes for sale, even though there is I wouldn't even say slowing down. There isn't as much of a frenzy. There isn't as much panic buying, I would say, where people are like, we have to have a home. People, like you said, people feel a little bit freer now. They're going on vacations. There isn't that rush that we have to get a house right now. But the home prices haven't dropped. They're still getting sold very quickly. I mean, if we didn't know what was going to happen, we'd still say this is extremely hot market. The supply of houses in some areas, I'm going to give you a perfect thing. In our area, which normally has thousands of houses for sale right now, we have 107 homes. But there's more, except for their proposed construction. So they haven't even finished constructing them yet. So there's still a supply problem. And it all started back in the last housing crash, because home builders got smart. They're like, we're not going to overbuild in hopes that more buyers will purchase this. We know we're going to build X amount because this is how many we sold last year. And that got them in a bad situation, because they actually froze the fact that they were going to be building, because like you said, those first couple months, they're like, this market's going to fall apart. And they were like, we're not going to build right now. And then when they decided to build again, then they had the supply chain problem of getting those building materials in. So there's a lot of different things.
The last time that I checked, ours was a 23-day supply, when a boundless market is 180-day supply. And by the way, I built a new house and we got our refrigerator in, which came in 6 months late, and it came in wrong. And now I have to wait 6 more months for a new refrigerator. They're letting me keep that one for now to use it, but it is fascinating. And I will tell you this, from just going through, I just went under roof when COVID hit. So, we kind of went through a lot of that growing pains. I will say, for a lot of my clients, I am going to their walkthroughs and stuff. Y'all, there's a lot of shortcuts being taken. And I don't think that's because anybody's trying to short anyone. These are the same workers working for different builders, the same laborers. They're tired. They're working 18-hour days. And sometimes I'm seeing the quality be a little bit like, oh, that's not right. And I don't think it's because anybody's trying to short anyone. It's just they are human too. So even more reason to get a home inspection if not 2 on new construction, pre-drywall and before your final walkthrough.
That's exactly right. You get that inspection not once. You get it throughout that construction process. I said that in my last video. CC Moon says, do you see hybrid models being the new full-time work schedule or full-time turn back into Monday through Friday coming 2022? My job asked me to be back in the office this month twice a week. I think some corporations are going to take on that hybrid model, and I'm going to tell you why, because it saves them money. If they have less employees that are sitting in an office, they do not have to have as much liability insurance, and that is cost them a lot of money. The second thing, they're going to have less HR problems when you have less people in the office. So then that's another employee that they may not have to hire back. Thirdly of all, some employers are going to insist that every single employee comes back. Some employers do not like change, and they cannot wait to have every single employee that they can lay eyes on. But I know that for some people, they have noticed that their employees have actually done better production because they have been working from home. So a lot of them are going to adopt this hybrid model. I think it's going to be here to stay for a lot of companies, major companies. Amy Heaslett says, we have more agents in my neighborhood than we have homes for sale. That's all over the country. I think at one time, there was an agent and a half for every house that was for sale. Was that like 2 months ago? That was crazy.
What do you think? I think we have more agents. Well, first of all, let me go back to your last thing. My husband works for a very large bank. He's not going back to work. They have sold off the real estate. He hates working from home. He wants to go back. He will not be going back for the reasons you said. Agents, do you know why I think we're seeing even more? When a lot of those people were displaced when COVID hit, a lot of people went and got their license. I mean, we already had a lot of agents, but we had people now entering saying, well, what am I going to do while I'm sitting at home? I'll get my real estate license, because they're seeing the market be so hot, not always understanding exactly the sweat and the tears that go into building a business. But yeah, we're no longer just a dime a dozen. I mean, we're a quarter.
That was when I started, everybody said that, because I started when the housing market crashed, and people are like, are you crazy? This is the worst time in the world to choose a career like that. And I was like, no, it's the time where everybody has time to talk to me and tell me how to do this job. Best decision I've ever made in my life, because all those top agents had the time to talk to me and tell me what to do. And then everybody else was down in the dumps, and they didn't want to do that grunt work of sitting at open houses and talking to builders and sitting in empty houses at new home builds to get them sold. And I was like, give it to me. I was doing everything I could. So
anybody can make it in a good market. But if you can make it from a bad market, you're set up.
Yeah, I think it's actually easier in a bad market, because everybody's in such a bad mood that you can just scoop up everything because they're not wanting to do it. School of Jack says, has there been any news on other materials other than lumber, the supply of those materials, and how builders are dealing with those issues now and going forward? I know from what I've been told that it seems like when they take 2 steps forward on one building material, like they're able to get the lumber in, now they're having an issue getting the roofing supplies in. Or, before there was a problem with the lumber, my husband worked for a roofing company, and it was difficult to get crews to show up. And it wasn't because of any other reason. It's just because everybody kept getting sick. But then they had a problem getting the roofing supplies in the beginning of COVID. Then it was lumber, and now it's nails. And then it was drywall. Drywall was another one that was a big problem. And then they had the OSB board. OSB board. That was a big issue too. So every time they seems to take 2 steps forward with one problem, then they take another step back because some other building materials become difficult. And I know the price of copper is going way up. So what are you seeing in your area, Shannon?
We're seeing a lot of the builders change their process. So where it used to be, you would go under contract, and then, you would pick out your things, and that would come 2 months later after you get the permit. Now we're seeing you go under contract, you pick out your items before we get the permit. We're going to get that stuff ordered because it's going to take an extra long time. And I've heard of other builders like getting more lumber than they need and stockpiling it and having that there. So I think the other thing is, I mean, this is the truth. Y'all, contractors and builders, a lot of them are not making as much as they used to. I have a contractor friend, he built decks, and he was like, this guy's yelling at me because I'm telling him it's going to cost $35,000 and he thinks it should cost $3,500. And, you know, he's showing me the receipt of this is what it costs for 4 or 5 posts. Can you imagine the whole deck? So, you know, we're seeing builders change their process. We're seeing them take less profit on it. And we're seeing them order materials and try to keep that on hand if they have the ability to do so.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yes, indeed. Like all you have to do if you don't believe a builder on how much something costs, just walk into Home Depot, go over to where a piece of like any kind of sheet of wood and just look at the cost and you're like, $67, and that was a deal. And then at one point it was like 115 for a sheet of plywood. Are you out of your mind? And I created a meme, and people might have seen it on YouTube, and I actually put it on Facebook too. But I showed like this truck with a little bit of boards in there. I'm like, this is what $500 worth this is $500 worth of wood, and it was all like piled up to here. And I'm like, this is $500 worth of wood, and it was like 3 sticks. All right. Barbara says, how long after Chapter 7 bankruptcy can you get a loan like FHA or conventional with half down? With half down. Barbara wants to know that. After Chapter 7 bankruptcy, how can you, after Chapter 7 bankruptcy, can you get a loan like FHA or conventional with half down? Yes, you can. As long as your credit's there. You have to talk to your loan officer, but you can. Have you had that happen? I know you've worked with people with questionable credit at times, don't you?
Yeah, and normally I always refer them to my trusted lender because I don't ever want to hold myself out to be a lender. And we always work in conjunction with the lender and maybe their accountant or their tax attorney or whatever's going on at that time. Because it just, you know, Chapter 7, there's Chapter 3. It all depends on where you are. It depends on, you know, how far you're into something. So I never just speak to that because I am somebody that is like, I know real estate and I don't typically get into the loan part or the accounting part or the tax part. So we work in conjunction with those professionals to make sure that you're getting the correct info.
Right. Well, I'll just say it can be done. I don't know your actual financial history. It totally can be done. Yeah, but you have to look at your credit score, your debt to income. There's all sorts of different factors, but if everything looks great, yes, it can be done. Is there another question? Yes. S. Adams, question. What's your advice for home buyers who do not have the fund for a low appraisal gap? 22 AD. In our area, most of the homes are sold over asking with a waive of inspection and appraisal. What would you advise? What would you say, Shannon?
So you got to shoot your shot. You got to do what you can. So you maybe have to be competitive in another term and another contingency. So if you can't make up the appraisal difference, maybe you can absorb a certain amount on inspection. So I will never tell somebody to waive an inspection because I wouldn't do it myself. And that just doesn't seem smart. But I will say it's up to you. But here is an option that has worked for other clients. Hey, purchaser is willing to absorb the first $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 of home inspection defects that are found on the home inspection report. Anything over $10,000 will be negotiated per paragraph X of the contract. So you can be a little bit more competitive in that area. Maybe you find out that seller needs a rent back and you can offer them a free rent back up to 59, 60 days, because beyond that, then you're getting into mortgage fraud and all that stuff. But maybe you can offer a free rent back in conjunction with what you're doing on inspection. You have to find out the needs of the seller. I mean, I know one guy that found out that they had to get a moving truck. He called and secured the moving truck and they paid a little bit towards the moving truck and was able to offer that. Maybe you can't make up the appraisal difference, but maybe you can make up $3,000. Let's say you have $3,000 extra. You can say, hey, purchaser agrees to pay $3,000 of the seller's closing costs, or purchaser agrees to pay the seller's grantor's tax. which, by the way, if it's a $400,000 house here, that's a $400 payment. It's not a lot, but it looks really competitive. So when you start adding these things on, maybe you say, hey, purchaser's going to purchase a home warranty and they're going to purchase seller coverage for $70, and that's going to protect you while your house is on the market under contract with me. So there's all these different things that you can do to be more competitive. And at the end of the day, are you going to beat somebody that's doing all of that plus waiving appraisal? No, but you just have to know, you just have to keep going at it. And I have found everybody a house this year that wanted a house. It just took some time for some people, and every last one of them found something that worked out better. It just works out that way. So you just have to keep going.
Yeah, and it's good that they had a agent that understood the contract and understood how to sweeten it in a way that necessarily didn't hurt the pocketbook desperately of a buyer. That's the importance of knowing the right kind of agent to work for you, and one that understands that contract. That is the number one thing that real estate agents do. It isn't just negotiating the deal. It's constructing that contract in a way, when you're representing a buyer, that not only protects them if they need to get out of it, but also gets them the best deal possible by using the right kinds of verbiage. So that way they're not in hot water if something comes up. So that's my little piece.
Can I just add, I can't tell you how many times I receive an offer and the agent didn't call me to ask what the seller wanted. Like, it just shows up in my email. That's not the kind of agent you want. You want an agent that knows how to pick up the phone, plays nice in the sandbox with the other agent, is going to call and say, hey, Kristina, I'm going to bring you an offer for 123 Main Street. What is it that your seller is looking for? And then needs and what they want. And then, you know what? The best question I ask after that, after we talk, at the very end, I say, what question am I not asking that I should be asking? And you'll be surprised how often a listing agent will say, you know what they also need? They need that rent back, or they need this, or you know what would make them really happy if they got to keep this. And that is ammo.
For your contract. Yep. Smart. Smart. J Girl says, isn't waiving the inspection risky, especially on an older home? Is this the unfortunate reality of to get an offer accepted, or does it depend on the offer? Well, every offer is going to be constructed different, but I nearly have a heart attack when any buyer is willing to just say, you know what, the inspection is for my information only, whatever comes up. So I have constructed it in a way that I say, okay, look, we'll say the inspection is waived as long as the repairs don't exceed. And I'm like, what is your number? And they'll say, you know, $8,000. Okay, we're going to write it like this. We waive all inspections unless the inspection reveals that the repairs are going to average or cost more than $8,000. And that's how I've gotten 2 people out of contracts. So that, again, is knowing your contract and how to write it correctly. So that way, even though you're writing it where you're waiving inspection, you're not killing yourself because the house is about to fall apart. I'm sure you do the same thing, Shannon, right?
So our area, it depends on your area. We also have something called the as-is addendum, but there's 2 choices on the as-is addendum. The first choice, you can do any inspection you want within 10 days. And if you don't like the findings, you can get out. If you pick the second choice, you can do an inspection, but you can't get out and you can't ask for anything. So I think it really depends. I have been able to get every buyer some sort of inspection contingency to stay. And it does come down to knowing your contract, but I would never personally waive an inspection, and I will never tell anybody to do it. And especially on an older home, but don't mistake that for, oh, this is a new house, I don't need it. Y'all, I just did a new house a month or 2 ago. It was longer than the older house, like the list. And so don't mistake that. You need a home inspection.
Yes. And don't think that just because you have the new Home Warranty Act, you're going to be fine, because within that year, anything can happen. And if they don't get to your house within that year, then the new home warranty has expired. Jeremy Blanton gives us a $25 super chat. He said, thank you, Kristina, for all you do. Great stuff. Jeremy Blanton is a real estate agent out of the Myrtle Beach area. If you didn't know that, he's also on YouTube. He has some great YouTube content.
I do.
I help him with his thumbnails. If you look over there, you're gonna be like, that looks like a Kristina thumbnail. It's probably because me and him worked on it together. All right. Do we have any more questions, Eddie, you want to throw up there? Lynn H says, question, any tips on how to get an owner to pick me when there are multiple offers? I have bid on 5 houses over asking and added a letter or 2 of them. I've been outbid each time. Lynn, I just want to ask you, I mean, how confident are you in your real estate agent who's constructing your offer? Do you believe that you could have won that offer if that offer was constructed a little bit differently? The other thing is that I know for me as a listing agent, I will not even, I'll even actually write it in the notes. Do not send in any offers with letters, because there's a whispering of things that have been said within the real estate community, which does this go against fair housing, the Fair Housing Act? Like, is this going to cause some discrimination problems? So I don't even want to look at anybody's letter of, like, despair. Like, I'm like, we're not taking those, because I don't want to cause any problems for my seller that might cause them to have some kind of litigation in the future. I'm a listing agent that represents my sellers, so I'm trying to protect them as much as possible. And I know that people have won houses this way. It's just not something I do. Shannon, is that something you do? Do you allow
Letters?
for? Yeah.
If they are general, and I will read them, where it says, hey, we toured your house today. It was beautiful. We promise to care for it in the same lovingly way that you have. We can imagine having, barbecues, where it talks nothing, where it's just general. But typically, no, because people can't help themselves. What I do is I write a love letter to the listing agent of, Kristina, I'm advising my buyers not to write a letter due to possible fair housing violations. However, I would like your client to know that is not an indication of how badly they want it. They love the house. And I also would like the sellers to know that I am a professional and diligent agent who strives to create win-win transaction for both sides. And if you pick our offer, you can be confident to know that I'm going to try to create a win-win for both. And that seems to help a lot.
That is that's a good idea. I forgot what her name was, but if you could have your agent construct that letter for you saying, I have the X amount of experience, I've closed this many deals, and I'm willing to work with you as a listing agent above and beyond of what you probably already have sitting in your hand. This is my experience, and I know I can get this done for you, and we won't have any problems all the way to the closing table. I want to make this work for your seller and for my buyer. That, my friend, will probably be the letter that works for you more than the letter that you write yourself. That's actually brilliant. Thank you, Shannon. Sure. DJ Jeffrey says, a question: if I use a USDA loan and use that loan to buy a house, what happens if my wife works, placing our income over the maximum limit after purchase? Do we lose the house? After you purchase it, no. No, you can make as much money as you need after the purchase of the house. That was just the time for when you qualified for the loan. After the qualification's done and the loan is done, I mean, you can win the lottery next week. There is no fault or penalty to you because you came into a windfall of money. Is that correct from your understanding as well, Shannon?
From my understanding, yeah. I mean, once it's yours.
Yep. That's even true if you are renting a house under tax credit housing. So you can qualify for tax credit housing, which is a reduced rent rate. And after you move in and you happen to get a job that makes you a lot more money, they can't come back to you. Even though you requalify every single year, you qualified that for that first year, you have good rent history. It doesn't matter how much you make after that. Just FYI, if somebody's looking at tax credit housing. Okay. Maria Tucker says, question, 1 of 2. Will you please talk about the rental market? I'm trying to rent a place, and I can't even get anyone to talk to me, even though I'm willing to pay the entire lease up front. Maria, this is common all over the United States. And as these moratoriums lift up, you're going to see a lot more houses and buildings that are going to be up for rent because of the fact there was a moratorium. And Thank you, DJ. There was a moratorium. They have a lot of renters that could sit there and they couldn't give up those houses because they couldn't evict them. So there is going to be some evictions that happen. So you're going to see that turn around. Not only that, several houses that I know of that did have rentals in them, that the renters left, those people decided to sell because they knew they could make a mint on their home right now. It's a problem that's happening throughout the United States, but I predict now that June 30th, the moratoriums end. I think some states have already lifted them. You're going to see a lot more houses coming up for rent, but they're so expensive. The rents have gone up exponentially.
Oh.
It's awful. It's awful. In our area, I'm like, I wouldn't rent this house for that amount of money. What do you see in your area, Shannon?
It's so expensive and it's so hard to find a rental. So we get calls about them all the time. In my area, we don't work rentals because they are so difficult. Most people go through a property manager and then they rent out of their own book of business. So that's something that we don't deal with a ton. Now, we dealt with it a little bit when COVID hit and we had our investors, calling and telling it like, what are we going to do and that sort of thing. But the rental rates right now, I mean, they're sometimes higher and often higher than a mortgage.
Oh, they're way higher here. It's way higher. It's almost like double.
Yeah, we need affordable housing. I mean, there's got to be some kind of solution. It is.
And I address this all the time. There are solutions to the problem. We have tons of areas throughout the United States, empty malls of commercial buildings. All they have to do is rezone that and turn those into condominiums. It would be cheap, affordable housing that could qualify for FHA loans, or even if you're in a rural area, you can even use your USDA loans. I mean, in some of those FHA loans, if it was a condominium, as long as they have the condominium, as long as they had the correct firewalls, they could use those FHA loans. So, I mean, there is solutions. We just have to find the right people that are willing to do it. There's a guy that my husband just met in New Orleans that's using commercial buildings and is talking to the city about turning them into affordable housing options, which I'm elated for because, New Orleans needs it more than anything. I want to say thank you to Robin Moxham for the $4.99 super chat. Thank you so much. Maria Tucker says, all I get is pay the fee and I need to find something for myself and my child in Tennessee. Have you, I know this is going to sound so crazy and I would never suggest this on a regular basis, but have you checked Facebook Marketplace and to see if individual investors or have their houses up for rent? Because sometimes they're not going through a real estate agent. So I mean, I hate to say it. That's not something I normally typically recommend, but I would check it out. And then if you do find somebody that is doing that, go on the tax records to make sure they're the ones who own it, because there's scammers out there, just like on all those websites. Yeah. So just make sure that the people that are putting the house up for rent are the ones that actually own it. And I says, Kristina Smallhorn and Shannon Milligan, I had both a Chapter 7 or a CR. The lender will have to do a manual override. That is how I'm able to go through the process. They will need my DTI, etc., the debt to income ratio. Yep. And everybody that's gone through this kind of process, and I know a lot of people that after the 2007 crash, they all went through it, but almost everybody I know that had to go through that and did short sales and Chapter 7s and Chapter 13s, and everybody owns a house again. And some of them were like, I will never own a house again. And then 3 years later, they're like, how is it that we're going to be able to get a house again? I'm like, let's talk to a lender so we can get you on the road there. So when you're ready, you can buy again. And everybody gave those people that had short sales a hard time, saying you won't be able to buy a house for 15 years. Well, that ended up being a big lie because it was like 7. So Geraldine Dudley says New York, I'm sorry, not New York, North Carolina.
North Carolina.
Sorry. I know. Sorry, Geraldine. Here is what is the best loan for abandoned homes?
Probably a 203K. I mean, if you can get in there, get some contractors to give you some bids and see what you could fix that up. I mean, it's not a bad process if you can get it, because you can get some good equity in there, but it is a little bit of a process to get through the bids and stuff.
It does take some time. They're very common here because we have so much flooding. So we're well versed
Yeah.
here in Louisiana with the lenders and the 203K loans. That was something that all lenders got a big schooling on when we had the flood in 2016. So when we had a little mini flood here recently, they're like, yeah, I can walk you through the whole 203K loan like this. But the biggest problem we're having is trying to find someone that isn't too busy where they can take on those clients, because we just did a simple remodel on one of our rental units, and it was just so difficult to get people to actually show up. Plumbers were the worst. We couldn't get somebody to come and do yard work. We had like 3 people. They're like, yeah, we're on our way. Never show up. So weird. So weird. They're just so busy. It's like they don't really need our business. Yep. So Shastina, I got it. How much do real estate investors usually try to lowball sellers on, like Stonecrest? Real estate investors right now. It's another it's another one of the big corporations that are buying. Like there's Blackstone, there's BlackRock, and then there's Stonecrest. There's a bunch of them that are just buying up as many single family properties throughout the United States. They don't lowball. They do not lowball at all. They are overbidding. They are squeezing out the regular home buyer just to get the house. Not at this time. They're not lowballing anybody. Now, I know that like instant offers, they kind of give you like face value of a house without even going into the house. And usually those are kind of a lower end than they probably could have sold themselves. Oh, thank you so much, Eddie. I appreciate it. Eddie Verwells gives me a $4.99 super chat for our answer to our question. Does anybody else have anything else? Eddie's getting it. I don't know if you could hear him in the background. He's Eddie's my husband. He's the producer. He's the producer.
I love that he does that. By the way, I just want to tell you, if you saw me looking down, this is real estate. I had a literal fire going on with a client. So I'm like trying to put that fire out, but I'm here. I'm listening. I'm just.
Yeah, we're good. This is, I told you, this is a very low key. My subscribers are honestly some of the best people on the planet. I know you hear all sorts of nightmare stories about what happens on YouTube, but I'm very fortunate to have a group of subscribers that are very low key, liked to hear what's really going on in the market, and they're not harassing.
So can I tell you what it is real quick?
Yeah,
when somebody has an open house, and it ends at 4:30 and they need all offers by 6. That's what's going on. They're like, I need to write an offer. And so I got one of my partners to do it, but I'm like, hold on, I'm busy at the moment. So
Elizabeth Vargas says, which real estate agency in Chicago is a reliable for home sellers? I don't know a specific agency. I do know some real estate agents in the Chicago area that are really good. I just need to know what specific area that you want to. And if you're looking for a real estate agent, doesn't matter which city you're in. Shannon and I both are connected with hundreds, and so in many cases, thousands of real estate agents. I have a group specifically full of real estate agents that are just using YouTube to advertise. If you want to reach out to me and find a real estate agent for your specific area, you can reach me at info@KristinaSmallhorn.com. So just pop me in an email and I will get you a real estate agent. House and a console. I'm so bad with these names. Question: when I have a limited funds, would you say it's better to increase the amount of your down payment from 3.5 to 5%, or do a minimal down payment and save the rest for closing costs FHA 350 loan? That is a lender question. I can't tell you. I don't know your financial situation. So it would be very difficult for me to give you any kind of advice on this. What do you say, Shannon?
I say the same thing. The one thing I will say is some people of my clients, and it depends on your financial situation, reach out to a lender, but some of my clients will put less down and use a different program so that they can make up appraisal differences in this market. So it all just depends on what market you're in and what's going on, but I would reach out to a knowledgeable lender.
Yep, or a financial advisor. Nell says,
yes.
A question: is it safe to hire a handyman without a contractor's license? if you're selling your home, that is the worst thing you could possibly do on the planet, because you need to have receipts, right? So say you accepted, say you're the seller and you accepted that you would fix and repair some of these items. You're going to have to show receipts that these things were repaired. In the state of Louisiana, you have to show that it was repaired by a licensed contractor. If you can't do that, you can get yourself in hot water. I personally would never not do it unless it, like, I know there's people that are in the construction business. My husband knows people in the construction business. There's things that we do for our rental houses, and they're just coming out on the weekend just to throw up some nails and some shingles. I don't have a problem with that. But anything electrical, oh no. Anything plumbing, oh no. They must be licensed. What do you say, Shannon?
100%. When I write up an agreement, like for repairs, I say seller agrees to hire a Class A. Doesn't always have to be Class A. It can be BC, because that just depends on the money value. But I always put Class A just to cover my bases. Contractor, and here's the key: in good standing with DPOR, which is our Department of Professional Regulations, to cover the basis, because you don't want somebody that doesn't know what they're doing to be doing those repairs.
Gotcha. Eddie had a question that popped up. It says, Vegan Meow says, when homes that are listed have a contingency on their offer, can someone come in with a cash offer and buy the house out from under them? Is that how it's done or frowned upon? Now that is location specific. So, couple weeks back, I had Matt Kelderman on here from Texas, and he said that was something that had been happening in some of the other areas, that because they left it open, even though it was considered contingent. They were allowing these other offers to come in contingent, and then the other people had to decide if they were going to drop their contingency and go ahead and purchase it. But here, if it's pending, it's pending. You cannot put in another offer. You can take it as a backup offer, but if it says contingency, you can still put in an offer. Doesn't mean they're going to accept it. What does it mean in your area?
So
Shannon?
if you have if a buyer A has a contingency, so they're under contract to buy the house, but they have to sell their house first. If buyer B comes and says, I don't have a contingency, they cannot have a contingency. They have to say, I don't have a contingency, I'm ready to buy it. There's a time frame that you outlined with buyer A. So it might be 24 hours or 48 hours that you have to go back to buyer A and say, you either poop or get off the pot. And if you're, if you're going to get off the pot, buyer B gets to come in and take it. But there is a time frame that allows you to go back to buyer A that says, okay, I'm going to move forward and remove the contingency. Because a lot of times they just don't want to. Or I can't, I actually have to sell my house first. I'm going to step out of line, and buyer B buys it.
Our form is called the first right of refusal form. Is that what yours is too? All right. Yeah. So they're all called something different. So I wasn't sure. Yeah. Question. Do you believe the housing supply will boom after June 30th, the moratorium ends? Will the supply boom? No, I don't. And I'm going to tell you why. Okay. So the amount of people that are taking the delay in pavements keeps going down every single month. Now there's still more, there has been an uptick of people that are going to be going through the process of foreclosure. With that being said, let's just say every single person that's still sitting in some form of repayment type thing, and they can't pay it back, and they're going to go into full foreclosure. It's a minimum on average of 428 days. 428 days. So if you're expecting this windfill of foreclosed homes hitting the market after June 30th, it's literally impossible for that to happen, because a bank can't foreclose in that window of time. It takes a long time to get all those court records and making sure the titles are clear and everything, to buy back from the sellers, to buy back from the bank, it's a lot to foreclose on a home. It doesn't take weeks. And in some areas, they say it can take a little bit less. I've had people argue with me. I'm just saying, on average, in the United States, it takes a minimum of 428 days. It can take 7 years before that thing ever hits the market, because it depends on if the sellers were in bankruptcy, if they're getting divorced. All of that adds extra 2 to 3 years on top of it. What is your take on that? Hot take on that, Shannon? I've almost said Michelle.
Everything you said, everything you said. I mean, there's nothing for me to add.
Oh, well, thanks.
I've got nothing. I've got nothing.
Talk about BlackRock and how they're involved in the bidding wars. Oh, this is so good. Go ahead and do this. Alex, I want you to look for my video that's coming out on Tuesday because I talk all about it. Talk all about it. So good. So good. I couldn't believe it as I was digging this up because people argued with me. They were like, "You're crazy. That sounds like a conspiracy theorist. Why would these big corporations want to buy single family houses?" I'm like, I'm telling you, they're doing it. They're doing it. Like no one would believe me. And it was like, when I first mentioned it, it was like page 15 on Google. Now it's like front and center. And I'm like, told you so. And then a subscriber of mine said, there's actually a Twitter war going on talking about BlackRock and how they are doing these biddings and stuff. And like I said, that Vox article that I showed at the top of the hour, they're trying to paint them as the saviors. They're really going to be the ones that save the market. It's not their fault. It's sick to me. I mean, the one thing that bothers me more than anything, and I'm sure many of my people will agree with me and some may not. In order for the average American to build wealth, and it's always been documented throughout history, is to buy real estate. If we keep squeezing out the average American from being able to buy the average American home, what is that doing for our future generations that will most likely never be able to afford a home? How are they going to build wealth? What way is it they're going to build wealth? This is one of the safest. Yes, we've had housing crashes, but they always come back. Always come back. If they're going to be renting their own home from BlackRock or on these other corporations, how are they supposed to build wealth? Many people use their home to pay for kids' colleges. Many people use their home to pay for their retirement, to help fund their retirement. And that won't be available to our generations to come. I just think it's sick. That's sick. Hello, babe. Says, I am able to use construction to permanently loan for boxable casita to also buy land. Am I able to use a construction to permanent loan for boxable to casita? No. You know why? Because the house is valued under $65,000. Now you can talk to a lender because this is a tricky one. The house is under 600 square feet. So you're going to have to find a loan off a loan company that will do to finance a house that's under 600 square feet. The second thing is that the house is valued at less than $65,000. Now, in order to get a federally backed loan, you have to have $65,000. Now, you could work with a local lender that would be willing to roll in the piece of land and the house, and that valuation would be over $65,000. But you're going to have to talk to your local lender about that. Have you seen those houses, Shannon?
No.
Okay, so it's a box, right? It can come in on just like a regular truck. It's a small house, like an ADU, right?
I was going to say, is it an ADU? Yeah.
It's like that, but it's built to modular specifications. So it's built to the same, and it's super energy efficient. And they can roll these up in a regular truck, and then they just fold it out, and it already has the kitchen and bathroom in it. So all you have to do is just plug it in. That's it. Screw it to the foundation and plug it in, and you're ready to go.
Doesn't Amazon have something like that? I swear I saw something similar.
Right. You saw something similar, but it's not made to modular specifications, and it's actually just a frame of a house. It's not the actual, you could fold it all out, but it's just the frame of the house. It doesn't have the plumbing. It doesn't have the cabinetry. It doesn't have the bathroom. This has everything. It's one contained unit. So their dream is to, like, if there was like a federal problem throughout the United States, when storms come in, they could just take these boxables and just go blah, 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 and plug them in people's driveways. And they're the equivalent to a house, just very, very small. They're built to the same building standards, if not higher, in most areas.
Talk about affordable housing, right? Like, there's so much you can do. I think about Tony, what was his last name, that owned Zappos. He passed away. He started this little community in Las Vegas. And I can see people doing something like that with something like that kind of product. That's amazing. I haven't seen that. We haven't seen that here.
Yeah, but I actually went out to their plant. They invited me out during the beginning of the pandemonium, and I got to fly out to Las Vegas, wildest thing ever because there was nobody there. So it was like a ghost town. And I'm in Las Vegas with all the lights shining and there's nobody out there. It was like a creepy movie. It was a cool thing, but weird all at the same time. But I went to their
So cool.
factory and I got to go and actually see inside. I saw how they put it together. They're fire resistant and mold resistant too. I actually took a roofing torch to the wall and nothing was happening. So once they get on off the line this year, because they're going to be in full production by the end of this year, I'm actually going to go back out there again, and I think we're going to blow one up. We're going to see how long it actually takes to catch on fire.
That's awesome.
It says, I'm looking to purchase raw land in a rural area. Are land prices up like homes, or is land in less demand? Trying to decide whether to start shopping or wait till the market cools down. In my specific area, land has gotten more popular, but is it as popular as houses? Absolutely not. They're not seeing 35 offers over a weekend. It takes time. But it has gotten more popular because people are like, well, I can't find a house, so I'm going to go ahead and purchase a piece of land. If you're buying raw land, I want you to go back and watch some of my raw land videos. Be very specific on the types of utilities that can go out to that specific piece of land, because you might be able to get water and sewer, but you may not be able to get internet. So double, triple dog check every single piece of thing you want to know about raw land. Do you sell that, Shannon? Do you have a lot of raw land out there?
So we have a lot of land. I will tell you, I am Chick-fil-A. I do chicken really, really well. So I stick to basically mostly single family stuff. But that being said, what I will say about land is they're not making any more of it. A lot of people in our area are being pushed further out because if COVID showed anything, we all want more space. So we're seeing a lot of people build on. I just moved to 2.5 acres because, I mean, it's not a lot, but it's way more than what I had. And that's why. So they're not making more of it. So should you wait? We don't have the crystal ball. Maybe something's going to happen in a year, something catastrophic and changes real estate. But that being said, you have to make decisions based on the information you have right now. If you buy land right now, and if the market continues the way it is, in 3 years, you're going to be like, you are a genius for doing that. Now, if something bad happens, then all right, maybe what you can't go off of that. You have to make your decision based on the info you have right now. And if I found a great piece of land, I'd probably buy it, because over long term, buying real estate of any kind, they're not making more. That piece of land most likely won't be there in 5-10 years.
I will say this about land, because I've seen it. I've been in this for a hot minute. So value of land does not go up exponentially like it does when it has a actual house on it. So when you see prices going up for land, they generally don't tank either. Like the price is the price, and most people will hold on to a piece of land until someone's willing to pay that price. They know that it's just a raw piece of land. So if you see a piece of land, you think it's a fair price, purchase it. If you think it's because, I better wait or the prices are going to drop, most likely the prices for that specific piece of land are not going to drop. They'll just keep them there until it sells. That's how it works here. People will hold on to a piece of dirt for eons before they'll sell it for less than what they're asking. Renaissance Man says, do you think that the Sacramento home prices will drop and inventory increase as the Bay Area tech workers are called back into offices in the Bay Area? Do I think the prices will drop? I don't think in Sacramento they won't. I just had Dan Parker on here, and he said he doesn't see it going down anytime soon. He said there would have to be some kind of catastrophic thing that happens in the housing market for the prices to go down in that area. And I'm just going by what he says. I know nothing about that specific market. But if you want me to connect you with somebody that is a real estate agent in the Sacramento area, let me know. You can drop me an email, info@KristinaSmallhorn.com. Shannon Milligan. Oh, let's do this one more. Holly says, do you have any advice for home path properties? This house we have been looking at had 2 pending offers in the 6 months and both fell through. We plan on making an offer tomorrow. Have you done home path homes?
Once or twice. It's been a long time. I mean, that was back in probably 2013. It just don't come across them that often.
Yeah, so they work. It just is more
Yeah.
work. That's all. I mean, that's one of those
Yes.
things like home path homes, they work. They just take more time. Just know that ahead of time. And a lot of times, whenever they don't go through, it's not because of the fault of home path. It's like something happens in the situation of the home buyers itself. So I wouldn't use that as necessarily a red flag. You can try to find out from the other people that might have put in an offer. You can ask your real estate agent if they know who actually put in an offer, because sometimes they'll tell you the reason. You call them up and be like, "Hey, I know that you put in an offer for this. Was there some reason that it didn't go through?" And a lot of times real estate agents will spill their guts. They do. They spill their guts.
Yeah.
Shannon Milligan, I want to say thank you so much for coming on to the show. Everybody give Shannon a little thumbs up for coming out here and spending an hour with us and talking about her real estate knowledge. There was over 511 of you that came in today. I think that we even got over a little bit over that. So I want everybody to give her a thumbs up and thank her for being a part of this stream today, because she is a very, very, very busy real estate agent. So the fact that she took the time to talk to me, thank you. I appreciate it.
I'll always take time to talk to you. I can't wait to see you at a conference. I can't wait to do it.
Vid Summit 2021, that's happening. This girl's on stage. If anybody wants to know anything. Oh, look at all the people giving you a little thumbs up. They're so thankful for you, Shannon. See?
Thank you. And if I can do anything to help anybody, feel free to reach out. Always happy to
tell them
share
what tell them your email address so they can reach out to you if they need your assistance.
Yeah, it's Shannon at rvahometeam.com. RVA stands for Richmond, Virginia. And on all socials, it's RVA Home Team. So if you hit me up on Instagram or Facebook Messenger, that's fine too.
She answers. She answers. She actually answers. I know that sounds crazy. Well, thank you so much. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Let's do a little wave. We do this until Eddie hits the end.